Welcome to the Squared Circle Pit with your host, Rob Pasbani.
Now entering the Squared Circle Pit. You could watch him every Thursday on the Pro Wrestling Potluck, a wonderful menagerie of viral wrestling clips and classic matches on YouTube and Twitch. Primarily on Twitch and then backlogged on YouTube. I have MisterGreenMist, Scotland Green, returning to the pit. Thank you, Scotland.
Hey, thanks for having me, and thanks for the great plug up top.
Absolutely. I want to apologize to my viewers and listeners. My voice is a little shot from puking this weekend, but powering through. I feel like Michael Cole on one of those pay-per-views that one year where they forced him to still do his job. But it's a worthy cause because there was a great pay-per-view this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
That reminded me why I'm a pro wrestling fan. AEW Revolution. Revolution has been on a really great streak lately. The last few years of just over delivering, I feel. Maybe because it's not considered one of like the big, like Double or Nothing and All Out were like the big tentpole events for AEW that you almost forget that, hey, a lot of cool stuff happens at Revolution too. What was your overall reaction to the show?
I thought it was a great show. And like you're saying, like, I can't figure out, because a lot of people are like, what is going to be AEW's WrestleMania? What's their biggest show? And it's still too early to figure that out. But damn, this Revolution show felt like an all-timer. There was so much good stuff. I mean, the Sting farewell was better than any farewell I've ever seen in wrestling. But, like, so many different kinds of matches, and they all delivered. It was an incredible show. Packed house. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. There was very little downtime, not a lot of stuff that didn't need to be on the show. Everything was good to great.
Yeah.
Even the pre-show, I think, was fun. We don't have to go through all the matches on the pre-show because it's mostly like a rampage. But one thing that stood out to me was the strut with Jeff Jarrett and then the 7 guys on the floor. That made the whole pre-show worth it for me.
I love Jarrett's group. I know some people get so mad that Jarrett exists in AEW, but that's the point. And I love like goofy groups that come together where it's just like, yeah, we got Jeff Jarrett and then Sanjay and Satnam Singh towering over everybody. I love it.
Yeah, and their role is to basically lose. Like, they never get anything. If they get over on somebody, it's just to set up a future loss.
Yeah, perfect use of Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, I really like him. I like that he convinced Tony Khan to bring in Karen because she's really good too. and it's a great package, especially like that. They're exactly a pre-show package. You know, they're not there to be in the main event. They're there to just spice things up.
Yeah, and I'm glad that wasn't on the main show. It didn't need to be on the main show, but you got to have stuff on the pre-show, and I think that was perfect. It got the Bang Bang Scissor Gang on the show, and I feel like that's slowly cooking up something. I feel like those two teams are going to turn on each other eventually, and hopefully the winner gets both belts, the trios and 6-man belts. There's no reason to have 2 of those.
Especially because they have different names. Like, one is a 6-man championships, one is a trio. They have to like sync up their branding here.
Yeah, so I'm ready for Jay White and the boys to just turn on the Acclaimed and take those belts.
I almost feel like they're teasing a Max Caster heel turn too, with the last few weeks of messing up his raps and getting annoyed. I wonder how that's going to play out.
The first time he messed up a rap, I thought it was a shoot. And I was like, oh, shit. Well, that's live TV. You know, it's going to happen. That's why a lot of rappers choose not to rap live, you know, just in case that kind of thing happens. And then it happened again, and I was like, oh, I'm getting worked. Yeah. And I'm fine with getting worked. That's what I love it's about. Yeah.
I agree.
Hopefully something happens with that, because it did kind of feel like I like the Acclaimed fine, but it felt like they've just been just hovering for a bit, you know.
Ever since they win the titles.
Yeah,
they haven't really had many defenses. Maybe there were some injuries, I don't know, but
you never know who's injured in AEW.
Yeah, like I just learned Miro. I was like, where the hell's Miro? And he just revealed he was injured.
Again.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is because they wrestle so infrequently and it's such a high impact style that it's more prone to injury. People are more likely to take some time off.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have a deep roster that can cover for those kind of things to where you're just like, where is that guy? I forgot he's employed.
Yeah. It takes like a few weeks where you're like, hold on.
Yeah. Where is Wheeler Yuta?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Although it's interesting that they don't even make him fly out to just be at ringside. They're just stay home. You're fine.
Yeah.
The other thing I loved about the pre-show was David Crockett. Love my Southern nostalgia. He was not at all prepared for the show and clearly had a few drinks because Tony was really trying to reel him in when he's just like, oh, it's going to be a great show and Sting is here and it's going to be a great show. Sting is here.
Yeah, he's happy to be there.
Yeah, you could absolutely tell he's happy to be in front of a camera. And it is very cool that they were able to get him and Tony together because that was the original, Saturday night broadcast team. And I love that they do little things like that. It's something that WWE didn't really used to do as much before. Now I think they're more open to it with Triple H in charge.
Yes.
But it really warms my heart to see that stuff. Like Nikita behind Jim Ross for the main event. I love all that. I wish they did more.
Cool. A lot of people kind of act like AEW is like some kind of newfangled thing that doesn't care about the past, and I feel like they care about the past more than any other wrestling company currently, and they would care more if they were allowed to use more footage, but they really do nod to the past a whole lot, and not in a cheap way, in a real way.
I think also they nod to the present too. They'll acknowledge what's going on in other companies and feuds continue from other companies here. It's it's almost like a downtown of all of pro wrestling. Everyone meets at the downtown, and everything that exists outside of it is a part of it. I like it.
Yeah, and it's you might not know everyone's background or everyone, but they give you enough that if you want to seek out someone's pre-AEW feud or whatever, you can. But you just need a one sentence to be like, these guys hated each other for a decade and didn't respect each other, and now they're here. And then you got the story.
Yeah, anytime someone says they don't explain stuff in AEW, I'm just like, are you not listening to the announcers? They they immediately say everything. I'm a little biased because most of the stuff I know already, so it's probably much easier for me to process. But
yeah,
they've been doing video packages. I think they're doing all right.
Yeah.
What did you think of the set of Revolution? I was a little underwhelmed.
It didn't blow me away, but I thought it was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. These new LED screens, I like them for the main shows, but I wish they would do something more for the pay-per-views. I understand budget-wise, it's not what are we going to just order a set and throw it out? But
we used to do that in WWF.
Yeah, exactly. And especially WCW. I think WCW went even crazier with their sets, like the old Halloween Havoc sets. But in general, I'm enjoying the production upgrade. It's almost funny now. I watched some footage from 8 years ago, and there weren't LED boards all around the ring, and it almost felt empty, like an old WWE. I was like, "Wow, this is so weird." So it's just a new norm. Let's talk about the matches. The show opened with the TBS Championship. Christian Cage, who's having quite a renaissance, against Daniel Garcia. The crowd wanted Garcia to win. The crowd were ready for a title change, but it wasn't happening.
Nope, not yet. They're building something with Garcia. He's slowly getting more and more popular, and people are behind him, but he still hasn't gotten that big win. For some reason, I thought this was it. I thought he was going to win here, and then all the people I was watching it with, they were like, why would you think he'd win here? There's not that much story behind it. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're right. But something's coming for Garcia because his popularity is growing, and he's getting over. And he was a guy when he first debuted, I was like, yeah, good matches, but I don't see anything else in him, really. And now I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, he's finding his character.
Yeah.
I think that was it. He was a good worker. He just had no personality, no outward personality.
Yeah.
I thought this was a great match. Christian is, I feel, honestly underrated as a worker. He's so good at extracting emotion from the crowd. And I love, a good heel has to have an entourage. I love that he has three people. Like, the ending was perfect because it's like Garcia has the win. You're rooting for him to win. And then it took two extra people to distract him to lose. And that's the only way Christian should win. He shouldn't be winning fair and square unless it's, against a jobber. But
yeah. He's 50 years old, so yeah, it makes sense that other people getting involved would help him win. And I love his group. It's such a great group. I love that they brought in 18-year-old Nick Wayne. They're like, all right, we're going to put you on TV. But every time you're on TV, your mom is going to be there with you. That's a beautiful thing.
Well, I'm pretty sure, I don't know once he turned 18, but before he turned 18, she would go with him. She would travel with him and
really?
be so she was there anyway. So they were like, why don't you, I'm assuming here, why don't you just come on screen? And I think she's really good as being like this, no, leave my son alone. Like, I love that.
Yeah. She's great.
So good for her. Good for another person getting a paycheck. I'm all for that.
Yeah, why not? Tony's got the money.
And then they move right along. I was very surprised this was the second match, but in terms of pacing, it actually made sense. Eddie Kingston versus Bryan Danielson for the Continental Crown. This has been a very interesting feud. I think Danielson has really established Kingston as this, like, next to the main event top guy who's tough.
Yeah.
By just insulting him for weeks and not respecting him until finally doing this. This was a very stiff match. Danielson is like on another level right now. I've been like all of my favorite matches of recent time have been with him. Like the ones with Zack Sabre are just like, this is what I want out of wrestling. So I don't think that this one was as good as the Zack Sabre matches, but it was very, very good.
It was awesome, and the story is so great, and they both just beat the shit out of each other. And I love that Danielson and Moxley is the same way, is that they can be heels or faces depending on who they're facing, and they do such a good job, because it's like the people still respect Bryan Danielson, but they'll boo him in this instance because they love Eddie, and Bryan is being such a dick to Eddie. I love it.
Yeah. And he's really acting the same he would if he's wrestling, a heel, but because he's doing it to Eddie, the crowd doesn't like it.
Yeah, it's so great. And then at the end, he respects Eddie now, and that's just like, that's so awesome, because that's like been the story with Eddie and all the BCC guys. It was the story with Eddie and Punk when Punk was there, is that all these guys didn't respect Eddie from, a decade ago and all that, and he has been fighting to earn respect of his peers, and he's finally getting it, and it's so awesome and deserved.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think it's evolved his character in a way where he has this confidence that he didn't have a year ago.
Yeah.
Another thing I love is the story that they did where, I forget, I believe it was the right hand, like, Eddie has the right fist. And so Danielson worked the whole match on his wrist to make sure that he doesn't have to feel that punch. Yeah. And so Eddie at the last minute, he's like, well, I got to use my other wrist. I got to use, and that's how he won. I thought that was really clever. And it's a detail that a lot of wrestlers don't really do what they're selling anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Like actual, like telling the story with your body. Like that's it. I love it.
And that's really all of AEW. Like critics will say AEW doesn't tell stories. I think what they're saying is AEW doesn't have long soliloquies where they're explaining the plot to you. Most of the stories are happening within the match. And if you really pay close attention, there's stuff in the match that's callbacks to like their previous matches and things like that.
I think people are so used to the way things were that they're like, they want feuds or they just expect feuds where two guys bump into each other in the back and spill coffee, and a feud is built off of spilling coffee on someone instead of like a competition-based feud. which is like what we get. You know, there's personalities and there's a lot of like emotions running through, but it's a lot of the stories are based on the fact that these are wrestlers trying to compete and be the best.
Yeah. And it works. This was great. And it was good that they placed it here because it gave it was like the first, real like semi-main event that the crowd got, and it allowed them to have that moment and then bring them back a little with the All-Star Scramble match next. And so this was Chris Jericho, Wardlow, Powerhouse Hobbs, Lance Archer, Hook, Brian Cage, Magnus, and Dante Martin. The first thing I will say about this is I was so happy this was not a ladder match. I feel up until recently, they would just throw random ladder matches on, and I hated it because it was such unnecessary violence for no reason, like putting all your wrestlers at risk. Yeah.
I was actually kind of shocked that they didn't do it because they usually do a Face of the Revolution ladder match. So
right. Yeah,
they didn't, but pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, this would have been the Face of the Revolution ladder match, but this match showed you absolutely didn't need the ladder. Like, they did everything they would have done in that match, minus those really painful spots of setting up the ladder and powerbombing someone through it. We don't need that. It's fine. It was there was some sloppiness, though, I think. I think Dante Martin is still trying to find his footing after that horrific injury. And, whatever. I'm cutting him some slack with that one. That was brutal. Also, just there seemed to be miscommunication. Like the four big guys did their meat spots, which was really cool. They were all clotheslining each other, crowd chanting meat. And then the smaller guys come in and they try to recreate it, and everyone's timing just seemed so off.
Yeah, it was thrown together. I mean, that's just the truth of it, is that it really was. They were planning a different match before with more big guys, and that fell through for whatever reason, injuries, and so they just had this. And so I think those scramble matches are so tough anyway, just because it's 6 or 8 people all over the area at the same time getting in each other's way. But yeah, it was fun. A lot of good. Everybody had something to shine in. I could have done without Jericho being in the match, but that's okay. I feel like that's how Tony Khan books, is that like he'll have all of his stories going into the pay-per-view, and then about a week before he'll be like, "Oh, I don't have anything for this star. Let me get this star on the show in some way." And I get it, but yeah. Yeah,
in a way, I'm surprised at how low on the card Jericho is. This is his lowest featuring in a while.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do feel he's very overexposed right now.
Yes.
I think he can handle being off TV for like 3 months and coming back a little repackaged, because
yes, please.
We've just seen this already. Like, there's nothing, he's not offering much. And it's been 5 years of singing this theme song. Like there needs to be an update.
People sang along. I was like, this is great. And I really hope they don't run this into the ground and do it every week. And here we are 5 years later, and it's like, oh God.
Yeah. And the thing is, Jericho is incredibly valuable to the start of the promotion. He absolutely carried them that first year.
Oh yeah.
And he did reinvent himself a few times, but now it almost seems like his act is like a little outdated. Like he needs to kind of move into this new kind of like Tanahashi era, where he's not going to be in the main events, but he's just this legend that can be thrown into something,
Yeah, absolutely. It's, he, there's no need to use him right now. He was going to be doing the Don Callis feud with Kenny, and then Kenny's out for God knows how long. So it's like, instead of finding the place for Jericho, just take Jericho off TV for a few months. Let him heal up and figure out something else, and then come back when we miss him.
Yeah, and book a tour for Fozzy or something, like,
yes, please.
give us some time off. Next we have the Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong match for the internet. Oh, well, before we do that, Wardlow won the scramble, and now he gets a world title shot. I'm all for this. I feel like this is a little delayed. Like, this should have happened really during MJF's feud.
Yeah.
But There's so many ways they can go now. Like, would Wardlow win the title and then MJF comes back and challenges him, or is this just he's just going to lose a match? What do you think is going to happen with Wardlow?
I feel like Wardlow's just going to lose, but I feel like the story of Wardlow is almost doing the thing. His most popular moment got neutered from the MJF stuff overshadowing him, and he really just hasn't gotten back to the Wardlow that everyone was into before.
Yeah.
And when he came out, I forgot that he was in the Undisputed Kingdom. I was like, oh yeah. Wardlow's
it's unbelievable how irrelevant, like, that was the major storyline for like 6 months, and now it's just forgotten about 2 months later.
Now it's just like, oh yeah, this little group, and I like them. I like Roderick Strong. He's awesome. Adam Cole is fine, but he's still hurt, and the other two jokers do their thing. But yeah, it's like that was the main focus, to where it was all devil all night, and now we're past that, and they should be running shit if that's what happened, and they're not, because their main guy is still hurt. But I'm glad Wardlow's getting something. I thought his live promo on Dynamite a week or two ago was great, and he's a guy that you don't think can talk, and who hasn't ever really gotten that shot, especially on live TV, to cut an in-ring promo, which is a whole different game. I thought he was great, so I hope something happens with Wardlow. I just don't know what it should be. I don't think he should win the belt, but something. He needs something.
Then we had the Continental Crown match with Roddy and Orange Cassidy. Great match.
Yes.
I love the story they're telling with Cassidy, how his body is just breaking down on him. And what worse opponent to have with a bad back than the Messiah of the backbreaker.
Who looked great. And yeah, it was awesome.
He looks so good. Roddy is in great shape right now. He's so lean and fit. And I mean, I've been watching this guy for 20 years now, and he's never looked better. That top rope backbreaker thing that he did, where he just dumped Cassidy, looked so brutal.
Yeah, that was nasty, and I had no clue what move was coming until it actually happened. Like, I didn't know what they were setting up until Orange Cassidy hit those ropes, and I was like, oh my God. That was awesome.
And I loved how the finish was almost a little abrupt, in the sense of, you're like, whoa, that's it? He won? It was almost a little unexpected, but made sense. And I don't mind Roddy as champion. I feel it's time to move on from OC as the international champion. It was like a little repetitive, and he could use a little bit of a break as well. Just because his character, I feel, is just stagnant a little bit. It needs a little bit of an evolution. So I thought this was the right move, and I'm curious to see Roddy's run with the title and how he defends it now.
Yeah, I want to see who he defends against first. And I agree. The Orange Cassidy stuff, I loved his first reign was incredible. The story of him defending it every week, and just his Orange Punch having less and less power behind it. I loved it. And then they kind of started to do it again, and it's like, okay, all right. So I was ready for a new champ, and I mean, goddamn, Roddy earned it.
It's funny, we're talking about like all these little things. We're like, yeah, this part I didn't like. And when you think about it, the reason that they probably did it is injuries, because they had to give Orange a title back because I think John Moxley got injured or something like that. There was a concussion maybe. And so a lot of this stuff is just, maybe they do need to be a little safer in the ring, so they could fulfill these storylines that they're doing. But at the same time, I'm loving what I'm seeing in the ring, so I don't know if I want that.
Exactly. It's a hard call to make, because it's like, they do have a more intense style in AEW, but people also get injured doing basic moves. Yeah. So it's hard to be like, hey, slow down. But it's like, you could also just get injured on anything. So yeah, I mean, obviously, guys like Darby Allin probably shouldn't be jumping through glass every week, but there's some happy medium, I think.
Absolutely, I agree. I think maybe it's just picking your shots with the violent spots. Like, you don't have to do a balls out TLC match on a random collision. You know, you could save that for the pay-per-view.
Yes.
Like this was the event where you should go balls out. This was a huge audience. Sting's last match, a lot of new eyeballs. This is the event to go balls out.
Yeah.
This coming Wednesday, rain in the balls out. Keep one ball in. What? Oh, at the end of this match, we finally see the return of Kyle O'Reilly. I was so happy to see him back. Like, this was a moment where I forgot about kayfabe, where I'm like, oh my God, he's healthy.
Yeah.
He's alive.
I was shocked to see him because I hadn't heard that he was healthy. I hadn't heard that he was coming back or anything. So it was a legit surprise, which is so hard to come by in modern wrestling. Yeah, I loved it. Good to see him. Glad he's back. I'm thinking, I was trying to remember of like where he was on the card when he got hurt and went out, and he was near the top. They were pushing him. He had a match with Moxley when Mox was the champ. So I think he's going to be doing some good stuff, I hope.
Yeah, and it looks like he's being positioned opposite Undisputed Era. He rejected the T-shirt, and it almost looked like he's going to be the next challenger. Like we were just talking about who's going to be next for Roddy. Feels like that's the match they're setting up, which is great. We've obviously seen them wrestle before. It's always really awesome. I'm excited to see Kyle back in the ring, and one match I'm really looking forward to is Kyle and Bryan Danielson. And that's going to be fucking great.
Oh, yeah. They got to do it.
Yeah. Just the mat work is going to be insane. So great to have him back. He's looking very healthy. Then we had FTR versus Blackpool Combat Club's John Moxley and Claudio. Mox and Claudio come out with the Legion of Doom shoulder pads.
I love it.
I loved it, but I almost felt like the shoulder pads were too small. Like it looked like there's too much of their torso exposed. You know, like it looked like kids' shoulder pads.
Yeah, it was very funny because like Claudio, they look good on Claudio, and then Mox is like wearing a T-shirt and then wearing it, and it looked like a Halloween costume.
Yeah, totally. I thought this match started a little slow. Like I kind of wasn't not that into it, but I was kind of just like, let's go. But then, like, the final stretch was incredible. It was so good. They were clearly just saving their gas for the last 10 minutes because it was balls to the wall. Yep. And I was super engaged, and I loved how they ended it. I love these unexpected finishes. One thing I love about Mox now is he doesn't really have a set finisher. Like some matches he'll do the DDT does. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah.
And then sometimes he just does a choke out. And I love that you don't know when the match is going to end.
That's perfect.
Dax gigged a little too hard in this match. It was a little too much blood, I felt. It kind of played into the finish where he just got knocked out from the choke. And so these guys could be the next tag team champions. And it makes sense because what is Mox doing right now?
Exactly. And I thought about that after the fact. They, after they won, the announcers were like, well, this solidifies them as a team. And it's like, okay, they got something cooking for these guys. And because in my head, I was like, I don't want to say I wasn't into the match when it was announced, but I was like, FTR is a legitimate tag team. And Mox and Claudio are two guys from a stable. They're not a legitimate tag team in my mind. And like as I was, ranting about that, watching the show, Mox and Claudio come out wearing the Road Warrior spikes, and I was like, okay, maybe they are a team. And then they proved it in the match that they're a great team. And so I think you're right. I think that is going to be the story. They're going to go after the tag belts because, Mox can't always be going for a singles belt or at the top of the card, and this is a good use for him. And him and Claudio as a team looking good.
Absolutely. I think they're easily the number one ranked team right now. They're isn't like just based on the booking they have to be. And I'm curious how they do this tournament. Like how many teams are they going to have? Are they going to have just, traditional teams, or are they going to have like super teams, like a Crockett Cup? Yeah.
I hope they do create some new teams because there's a lot of guys that really have nothing going on that it would be good to be in the tag team. That's one of the good things about having a strong tag scene is that you have something to do with your singles guys that are mid card that maybe don't have something right now. And it, gives them a little bit more personality and history to be a part of a team.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, I'm curious to see where they go with that. After that, we had Timeless Toni Storm versus Deonna Purrazzo. And I thought this was terrible positioning for this match.
Yeah.
They're just begging for people to get up and go to the bathroom or the concession stand after the last 2 or 3 matches that they gave them. You know, I feel like when you're at a live show, you always try to time out your bathroom breaks and your food breaks based on how interesting something is. And no, absolutely zero disrespect to the ladies. I love both of them. But like, this is a very telegraphed bathroom break, just in the sense of the stakes here feel so much lower than the previous matches.
Toni was in any danger of losing her title.
Exactly.
You know, it didn't occur to me at all. Like, oh, Deonna could win. No. And she's like almost miscast because the people love Toni Storm so much, and she's just killing it. There's no one in wrestling that is consistently as funny as Toni Storm right now. Like, straight
absolutely.
Up, every time she's on camera, she kills me. And she's supposed to be a heel. And it's just kind of a miscasting, and you know, nothing against Deonna, but like, I don't feel like the crowd was as behind her as it was booked, you know? It was booked.
I was just going to say the exact same thing.
Behind her, but we're not.
I think they did a terrible job of introducing Deonna to the audience and making the audience like her. Like, we don't know anything about her other than she's Tony's friend and she's good at wrestling, you know, like she hasn't connected with the audience. So the audience didn't care to root for her. And for most of this match, they were quiet.
Yeah.
This had the least reaction of any match on the show.
And it's a shame because they're both great. I think Deonna is going to shine when she's heel. I think that's kind of what that character is. So maybe this is a part of her long-term kind of story. You know, she came in, you know, in story, she came in hot and went after the belt and lost. So that is a good way to start to turn someone heel. But I don't like someone coming in and immediately getting a title shot and losing, because then it just kind of feels like we saw basically their peak.
I agree. And they do this too much. Like, they did this with Taya recently as well. And now she's been floundering. It was not the best way to introduce her. In the press conference, Toni Storm once again brought up how she wants to face Wendy Richter. And I feel like they need to bring in Wendy Richter. Like, if not for a match, for a run-in or something. Like, they need
for a promo face-to-face. They've mentioned her like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And I guess Wendy Richter is code for Mercedes Moné. Like, but God damn. Yeah, they got to have Wendy come in now.
And, you know, obviously Mercedes is coming in. I don't want to say obviously, but it's safe to assume in 2 weeks she's coming in. I hope Toni isn't her first feud for exactly the reason that we're talking about. Like, I think Serena Deeb teased on Collision that, you know, she's the final boss of AEW. So I think her versus Mercedes versus Serena would be a fantastic first feud. Like, absolutely. Mercedes' first feud does not need to be for the title. She should have some. They could, if they save that for Wembley, that would be great. Unless Jamie Hayter's back, then she should win it Wembley. But in general, like, the women's division is really, really stacked right now. I think I guess they brought in that new writer, the former WWE writer. Yes. I hope they start featuring the women more and they get more segments. You're starting to see it a little.
Have been. They've been giving women 2 matches on some of the shows, which was a big deal. And, you know, they don't have to be 2 big, long matches, you know.
No.
Like squashes and stuff, advanced storylines and established characters. So, you know, you do like a little squash and then you do an actual match for another feud or another angle. And I like that because, when it was just 1 segment a week, it's very hard to get anyone else over than the favorites that are already over.
Yeah. This is the point in the show where I, unfortunately, being an old man and dealing with this stomach flu, I started dozing off. It's just uncontrollably. It's like 10:30, and I'm so upset because here comes Will Ospreay. This is the match I wanted to see. Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita, and I just passed out during for the majority of it. I saw like the last 2 minutes of it. Don't worry though. I I did go back and watch it because the Sting match had me so hyped. It was like an adrenaline rush that I was able to go back and watch everything I missed. This match was so good. This was such this was not like the Sting match was the match of the night, but like the work, like in terms of like a match, this was the best match on the show. This was top tier, like best, like this is the best of 2024 wrestling. I loved it.
Yeah, it was incredible, and you knew it was going to be good. There's no way it wouldn't be good, but it was just so insanely good, and I was happy to see Konosuke Takeshita be able to show and prove on pay-per-view because he's a guy that is so good, and we haven't really been able to see that lately. He's been on, his TV matches since turning have been okay, but this was just like, oh, this dude is a great in the making, and he's the future of AEW, and this is, when he turns face again, he's going to be a big deal star, I think.
I absolutely agree.
That's just, of course, Will Ospreay was in an amazing match.
Yeah, I mean, what a run he's having right now, and hopefully he could stay healthy. They did that crazy backbreaker spot. There was a lot of insane stuff in this match. This was a very like strong style, Japanese style main event, and it's the type of stuff I love. The no selling, for me, it's a very fine line with the no selling. Sometimes I feel, especially with Will Ospreay, it could be a little spammy, like a little too much, like where everything kind of loses meaning because you're doing so many moves, combos, one after the other. But I think it really worked here for many reasons. And the main reason being the crowd was so into it, and the crowd elevated the match by like just being with them every step of the way, and the right guy. Well, I think Ospreay is going to be their top guy. Like, there's no question, he's the top guy. He's the guy.
It's actually kind of surprising to me because when he showed up at Dynamite in Huntsville, Alabama, in my head, I'm thinking they're not really going to care that much about Will Ospreay in Huntsville, Alabama, for whatever reason, and they loved him. They were into his promo, which is also something I wouldn't have predicted, that a Will Ospreay live promo, would get the Alabama crowd hyped, and it worked. So it's like, that's when I was like, oh, he is going to be a top guy in AEW, not just a great wrestler. Like, he's connecting with American fans, and I wouldn't have predicted that, honestly.
Yeah, he's gotten much, much better on the mic. When New Japan did that G1 in Dallas, like 6 years ago, I went down to Dallas and I was able to get into the press conference the day before, which was one of the coolest things, just to be at one of those, official New Japan press conferences. And he did a moment with the press, and all I could think about was like, he's so nervous and soft spoken and shy right now. Like, it's completely different from the character he projects when he's in the ring. And I feel like he's completely shed that shyness now, where he's super comfortable on the mic. He's just himself. I feel like he's just gained a level of self-confidence about his ability where he doesn't have that reservedness of, he's like a man now. He was a kid back then.
Yeah. It shines through. He's like happy to be there. It's infectious. His joy. He looked really happy at that Dynamite, and the crowd was happy with him.
Yeah, agreed. This was wonderful. I'm so excited that we get Will Ospreay every week now, and I can only there's just so many great feuds for him to do. I'm curious. Like, he has to be a face. He's going to be splitting off from Don Callis, I think.
Yeah, that just seems so odd. I think that's what is happening, because he fought Takeshita here, and then on Dynamite he's going to face Kyle Fletcher, who's also in the Callis group. So I feel like this is him being against all these Don Callis people, I think, is going to culminate with him being kicked out of the group or leaving, because he's going to face Hobbs at some point, right?
Yeah.
And that, I think, is going to be the end of him in the group. But who knows?
I hope that Fletcher and Mark Davis go with him as well. Like, that they're his kind of second and third. Yeah. Like, they should continue that United Empire faction with them, because I think it's good when like top guys have friends. For Like, I love the New Japan. Yeah, I love just the New Japan style of advancing feuds with like 6-mans and like 8-mans and of just you and your friends against the people you're feuding with and their friends or whatever.
Everybody out.
Yeah. Then we had the World Championship 3-way match. And again, still passed out on the live broadcast, but went back and watched it. I just think that these pay-per-views, there's no reason in the streaming era now that they need to start at 8 p.m. No reason at all. 8 p.m. Eastern time, I should say.
On a Sunday.
Obviously, on a Sunday. And end at midnight on a Sunday. Like, I'm an old man now. I'm 40 years old. I fucking wake up at 6:30 in the morning. I go to bed usually 9:30, 10 o'clock, you know? So why are you making me, your viewer, like suffer? Like, it doesn't make it like there would be no, like, if the show started at 6 p.m., it could have ended at 10:30. That's so much more reasonable. And then you even benefit from more social traffic for your main, your main thing. Like, all this Thing stuff was being posted at midnight, 1 a.m. It would have gotten far more traction at 10 p.m. You know, that's just my old man opinion.
No, I agree. I liked when their shows were on Saturdays.
Yes.
That just is so much better. And then somehow it flipped to where WWE does shows on Saturdays now, and AEW is doing a bunch of Sunday shows. I don't know when that flip happened, but I wish we could go back to Saturday shows.
I think Tony Khan said something where like they get better buy rates on Sundays, apparently, or there's less competition. I think they just didn't want to compete with UFC and football on Saturdays.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now they have Collision though, anyway, which I don't think should be on. It should be on like Friday or Thursday. I don't know. It shouldn't be on Saturday.
No, I would put Rampage on in the morning, and
I would love that, like a Saturday 11 a.m., like the old WCW Prime, I think it was, or maybe. Yeah. Anyway, but this 3-way match, I'm like, all three guys are hitting on all cylinders right now. Samoa Joe couldn't be a better representative for your company as a world champ. He's so good. He's so believable as the top guy. Completely different from the vibe that MJF brought.
Yes.
And
a welcome
change.
Run.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like, you know, I enjoyed the MJF run at the beginning of it, but by the end, I was so happy. Like, I was over the gaga. I was over all the shtick, and I'm glad it's like serious again. The world title picture should be serious. And Hangman's heel turn has been incredible. How he's just losing his fucking mind every week. Yeah. And Swerve is another guy that's going to be a world champion. Like, my internal dilemma now is who should be the world champion first, Will Ospreay or Swerve Strickland? It's hard to say.
I say Swerve, and then we have Swerve Ospreay at Wembley.
All in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I like that Swerve didn't win this. I know that people really wanted it, but it's like, I'm glad we're getting a real Samoa Joe run. Yeah, and we're putting obstacles in Swerve's way, so it's not just like, okay, now it's your turn to have the belt. It's like, he's going to be earning it to where we all want him to have it. And yeah, Joe can't be an afterthought. He is, like you're saying, he's a good champion. He looks like a champion. He carries himself like a champion, and the company needs like a solid champion like that everyone respects.
Yeah, it would. And to your point, it would mean more for Swerve to beat a more established champion than this is like Joe's second or third defense. He would look weak if he had just lost it, or if even worse, if Swerve didn't even beat Joe for it. Like if he pinned Hangman to win the title, it would just be a very WWE way to book it. Yep. So I agree. I think it's too soon. Swerve absolutely is going to be world champion. I could see it happening at the next pay-per-view or the one after, but it should happen relatively soon because, like we're talking, you still want Swerve to have enough of a title reign for it to mean something, and then Ospreay sort of has to win it at All In August. Like, it's just too perfect, and he's ready for it. It's not like they have to set him up. He's already a main eventer. And that match would be crazy too. I think they've wrestled before. I've seen them on like Evolve and like early shows, but they would have crazy matches too.
Oh yeah, especially
the whole top of the guard
Wembley.
Yeah, like I'm just thinking about like the Continental Classic this year. Like if they really do all of their top guys, like it would be better than the G1 now if they have like Okada, Ospreay, Hangman, Swerve. If Kingston. Omega's back, Kingston, Danielson. It's just like what? Like having these names, like if Miro's healthy, like it would be so crazy. It would be such a. They almost have too many great wrestlers now to like feature all of them. They could even benefit from a roster split in a way. Not that I want it, but
yeah. The top of their card is very strong, and like you said, it's. Okada on the way, and that's going to be a game changer as well. Like, I have no idea what to expect from Okada in AEW. Is it going to be the same presentation fully as his New Japan stuff, or is he going to kind of do something different now that he's in America on television? Like, I'm interested in seeing, because honestly, when Okada was becoming a free agent, there was a part of me that wanted to see him go to WWE. Now, totally I don't even watch WWE regularly. I watch every fourth pay-per-view or whatever. But, like, there's something interesting about that because I would have no clue what to expect. And I, don't know what to expect from Okada in WWE. And we kind of, we've seen Okada in AEW, but not as a full-time signed wrestler. But, yeah, there was just something like, geez, I wonder what it would be like, Miz versus Okada.
Oh, my God. I totally agree with you. When the rumors came about, I thought he should go to WWE just because there's so many people in AEW right now. It's so crowded that it wouldn't even, like he might get lost he might end up like Jay White, where he's in the pre-show. And I love Jay White. That's not a knock on Jay White, but I absolutely understand why he would go to AEW. No, because all of his friends are there, Young Bucks, Rocky. Yep. He feels safer there. He probably got a much better deal. I'm sure money-wise he got a better deal, and he could live in Japan still.
Yeah, and just work one night a week, if even that.
Right, and I'm sure they're going to give him breaks and stuff.
Yeah.
Come in for a program, have 2 months off, come back. I'm sure it's going to be something like that.
And that's perfect.
He is the best wrestler in the world. So I'm so excited to see him in this American scene and like showing American fans what he can do, because it took a while for me to understand Okada. But once I got him, I felt like nobody could put together a match like him. Like there have been so many matches like those, 45-minute, Osaka main events where like you're so into it and then it's just like, wow, how did he pull that out? Like that's the perfect move for this moment. And I'm so excited for like the crowd from Sunday to experience that like Okada special match.
Yeah, it's gonna be so exactly. Great. It's like those main event matches are going to be great. I'm also just excited about Okada in just regular old AEW weird TV matches. You know what I mean? Like Okada versus Roosh, Okada versus
God,
just like things like that where it's just like thrown together matches, but like that's my shit. I love stuff like that where it's just like weird opponents. I love it. So
Okada versus Danhausen. Yeah.
Why
because
not?
what I love about Okada too is he's the best wrestler in the world, but he is the silliest motherfucker in the world.
Yeah.
He loves Gaga. He loves bullshit. He loves like Toriano is his best friend. So yeah, he's totally for it. It should be really, really fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Ultimately, even though I was rooting for him to go to WWE, I'm not going to be upset that he's here. And if anything else, they're obviously going to treat him with respect. But going back to the world title match, I love the ending here. Hangman constantly costing Swerve the match, taking out the referees. I even gave into the kayfabe when he started attacking Bryce, which I believe was the second ref. I'm like, come on, this is too far, man. It's one thing to pull the referee out, but like to beat him up, come on. I loved it. And I love that he took the submission, loss, and I believe the story that they're telling is he intentionally tapped out just so Swerve wouldn't win. Like he would rather Swerve lose than him win.
Yeah, his purpose in that match was to stop Swerve, and that's great. He's been driven insane by this Swerve feud.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Love it. And I'm so curious where they go next with it. Like, what is the match now? Does Swerve get his own title shot? Do they fight again? You know, like there's so many ways it can go. So I'm very curious to see a lot of threads they opened up with this pay-per-view.
Yeah, and that's like the post pay-per-view Dynamites are always very fun because they announce very little going in, and you just kind of see it as a season premiere almost because it's like they wrapped up some stuff on the pay-per-view, they introduced some new stories and stuff, and then we just see what direction the company and the stories are taking on the Wednesday after, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm very curious for Dynamite. Then we have the main event, Sting's final match, Sting and Darby Allin versus the Young Bucks. What an incredible presentation.
Yes.
They just absolutely great. When his sons came out, I almost cried. I was like, this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
This is exactly what should have happened.
Well, I'm such an idiot that when his sons came out dressed as different era Stings, I didn't put together yet that it was his sons. I think I might have missed the commentary saying that or something. So for like 30 seconds, I thought those were the two luckiest local talents in the history of wrestling. I just thought it was two guys from the area that they painted up like Sting. I was like, those two guys are nervous. And then someone at my house was like, no, those are his sons. And I go, oh, okay, well, that's great. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think even the first son, the Surfer Sting son, I think he fooled the crowd. I think the crowd thought that was Sting.
Yeah, they're like,
which, I mean, he looks, yeah, he looks, it's so like him. It was such a good moment. And then the lights go down and they play Metallica, Seek and Destroy. And I'm a fucking kid again. I don't know what it is about it, but that song is so associated to Sting for me. I mean, I know what it is about it. It's because it's just WCW nostalgia. Yeah. And so that they did these little details that they threw in and getting the PWI images of Sting and the New Japan footage, it painted such a full picture, and it was such a nice, great tribute to a guy who deserves it. You know, it was perfect. And
it was great. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It was great listening to the crowd because they would go nuts and then something else would happen and they would go to even a higher level of popping, like that whole, you know, Sting watching the highlight reel and the Suns coming out and then Sting coming out. It was like, this was a huge pop. Oh, wait, this is a bigger pop. Oh, fuck, they're losing their marbles now. It was awesome.
Yeah. It was really good. And the Young Bucks, people were shitting on them being... I knew this was going to be a great match. They were the perfect opponents for Sting because the Young Bucks have... When it comes to wrestling, they have no ego. Their ego is to have a great match and to make sure the crowd is responding. They knew exactly what their role needed to be in this match, and they played it to perfection. I feel like they carried the whole match. They were the ones doing the most work. They were working with one of the two guys. They took out Darby early. What did you think of the Darby controversial glass spot?
I thought it was insane. I'm not gonna say like, oh, he shouldn't do it and all that because it's, you know, it's a one-time thing, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, like we said, this is the show to do it. Yeah, this is the show to do it.
And it's like you can't stop Darby, you can't rein in Darby, and he did his thing. It was insane. I'm glad he's all right. I think it looked worse than it actually was. Not that it wasn't bad, but like all those cuts and stuff.
It was it was a great visual of just staying on his back and then zooming in and seeing like, oh, wow, there's like 100 cuts from falling on the glass. In my opinion, I thought that the spot was stupid, but like, I'm not doing the spot. And he wanted, like, it's not like Tony Khan forced him to do the spot. I'm sure he suggested it, if anything. And like we were just saying, this was the show to pull out a crazy spot.
Yep.
Where he shouldn't do a crazy spot is like 3 weeks ago when he was facing Jeff Hardy on a Rampage, and he did basically the same thing through a table. There, he shouldn't have done this.
No.
Or like, there's plenty of things dumb spots he's done. I'm like, this is so stupid, and everyone's going to forget this. A total waste of your body. Yeah. This was not. This was the most use he got out of a crazy spot. Like, people are going to remember this. Yeah, exactly. This is absolutely when you do it. And it actually really played into the story because he fell through the glass and he was knocked out for virtually the rest of the match. 20 minutes later, Sting gets thrown through a plate of glass. Gets up right away.
He does his no sell.
I love it. I loved it. They redid they wrestled each other at Forbidden Door in like a 6-way or something 2 years ago. I remember in Chicago. I was there. It was one of the best matches of the show. And they redid a spot where both of them gave Sting a super kick, and he kind of like reels back and just stands back up and he's like, "No, I'm not selling this." I remember when I first saw it, it made me get up out of my chair and like yell like that's so great. And I did the exact same thing here, even though I knew it was coming. There's power in a great no-sell spot. Like, you can't do it all the time, but when Sting does it, it just works.
Yeah, you can't do it all the time, and everybody can't do it. That's the thing. Sting has like the legend, extra bar of health, and so he can get away with it. It works. And going back to what you're saying about the Bucks, I thought the Bucks were the perfect opponents for Sting and Darby in this match because, it's Sting's retirement. You're going to get different eyeballs on the match, a lot of old heads that don't watch AEW and kind of have it in their minds that the Bucks are the worst thing to happen to wrestling. So for them to be the heels in Sting's farewell just makes all the sense in the world, and it gets all those old heads screaming at the TV. I think it's great.
No, and like their new secession personas, it's perfect. It's wonderful. Like they've evolved their characters as well because of this now. Like, I think they don't even refer to themselves as the Young Bucks now. They're the EVPs.
And that's perfect. Temporary. And they changed their move names. There's no more Meltzer Driver. It's the TK Driver.
Yeah, no, it was so good.
Perfect.
I loved seeing Steamboat doing spots. Steamboat could still go. He's so great, and he still has that baby face fire that gets the crowd so into him that I was like still cheering for him. But then they had Ric Flair come in. And it's the complete opposite, like negative heat, like, no, get this guy off my team. And even forgetting about, the stuff going on, like the, sexual harassment stuff, which is, we shouldn't forget, it's horrible. Just beyond that, he is just in no condition to do anything physical anymore. He's so broken down that, like, when they did their super kick spot, he couldn't even bump. He had to like gently fall over, and like it was totally unnecessary. I don't know. I loved Ric Flair so much. He meant so much to me when I was like a teen and in my 20s.
Yes.
And it's so hard to see him now, what he's become. And like, it's such an embarrassing thing. Like, he's like the embarrassing uncle that shows up to the family functions where you're like, oh God, we know where this is going. Yeah, he's wasted already. He's talking about 40 years ago. It's just like, stop.
Yeah, I hope we don't see Flair again in AEW. I'm sure we'll see him fucking Wednesday, but I've seen enough. I don't need to see him. And I feel like in Rick's head, he is like, maybe Tony Khan will give me a farewell like this. Like, he's trying to maybe angle himself to have one last match with the send-off like Sting's, and it's too late.
I was thinking about that too. Like, if he was getting jealous at how much better this was than his cash-in last match a few years ago. In every way, it was better. Like, of course, Sting can still go, like Flair, but also Sting is 10 years younger than Flair or whatever it is too. So that's a big difference.
That's true. And the Ric Flair send-off was just kind of like a, I don't know how to put it, like a scam or something, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a great match. It wasn't a great send-off. It was just kind of a Flair needs a big bunch of money because he's leaving wrestling. So let's make a big deal out of this last match in quotes.
Well, I think if you ask Flair, he's making more money now than he's ever made with his energy drink and his weed brand. So, which that's another thing. Like seeing the viral clips of Flair and Tyson puffing joints, huffing down joints. Nothing makes weed, and I'm a daily smoker. Nothing makes weed less cool than seeing Ric Flair smoking a joint. I've never been like that's the worst pot culture. Yeah,
see, just a couple old sexual predators passing the joint.
So Sting wins the match, as of course he should, and he starts speaking, and I was so bummed that they ran out of time. You know, it would have been really, like, I wish they had like another 15 minutes just to I wanted to see all of it. Like, let him vamp, let him thank the crowd, let him thank everybody. Like, I wanted to be a part of that celebration. And, you know, on The Observer, they made a good point too. Like, why have that celebration there? They should have had it on Dynamite tomorrow, you know, this Wednesday.
Yeah.
To have a whole segment like Flair did in WWE.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it would help their TV ratings. It would pump up the show. That's a good point. Maybe they'll replay it because I know they put it on on YouTube immediately.
Yeah.
The show, but yeah, it would have been good to watch the whole thing, and it really would have been good to use it as a hook on the Dynamite.
Yeah, absolutely. But still, it was really, really cool. It was great to see Sting. Sting was in such a great mood. It was awesome to see the whole locker room come out. And at the end of it, I was just like, man, they fucking did it again. AEW's back, baby.
Yeah, that's how I felt. It was a damn fine show, and they needed it. They needed a solid show that gets you excited about the future.
I felt like
the future of wrestling.
Yeah, I felt Wrestle Dream was a little disappointing in general, overall. And so this was a great bounce back where almost every match delivered.
Yeah. Agreed.
Cool. So everything, you know, it's a very exciting time to be a wrestling fan. AEW is delivering, and WWE, for their part, is as exciting as it's ever been.
Yeah, their main event scene is cooking.
Yeah, this is like after the Sami Zayn angle kind of sunsetted, I felt like the Bloodline story fell off for me. Yeah. I kind of felt like they were stretching, but it's back. It's back on in a big way now. And I was not looking forward to The Rock returning. I thought it would just be, you know, the same tired old fucking insults and dumb catchphrases, but he clearly saw he had to step up his game too, that this is a different crowd. He can't just coast anymore. And these last 2 weeks have been incredible. Like I love The Rock again. So
yeah, the stuff I've seen, it's like, okay, The Rock is feeling it, and he's cooking. He's not just he's not doing the hits and remember when. He's bringing new stuff, and he's kind of, I mean, the fact that he's a heel is what was necessary.
Absolutely. This was the right move, and I applaud him for not being stubborn and realizing and evolving. And hopefully, you know, I personally do really want to see Roman versus Rock, and I know they want to do it. I'm hoping that that's what they're still building for, either for next year or, you know, maybe SummerSlam. Yeah. Because I think they need to get to that. That should be the conclusion of the Bloodline story.
Yeah, and the belt doesn't need to be a part of that.
Totally
I
agree.
Think. There's no reason, because, I mean, you know, whatever nice things we want to say about The Rock, in 2024, The Rock shouldn't have a title.
Absolutely. He shouldn't have had it in 2014 either.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And even like, I remember last year at SummerSlam, it was Roman versus Jay for the title, but they built it as like for the head of the table. Like they already made the title an afterthought previously. So I feel like the moniker head of the table, that they've built that up enough where that is the title. You know, like you said, they don't need the title in the field. Like Cody can win. Rock costs Roman the match. You know, kills the bloodline. Cody finally finishes the story, which everyone wants to see, and he can go and do his feuds, and then Rock and Roman can continue. I think that would be great.
Absolutely, yeah. It's necessary. And I don't know if like all of WWE is doing hot right now, but I know their main stuff and like the Gunther and all that is great. You know, like I don't watch their TV, so I don't know how the Viking Warriors and Katana Chance are doing, but yeah, the main stuff looks good. And I'll probably watch WrestleMania because of it.
There you go. I would recommend definitely. Like I feel like their big events deliver. You could watch on an hour delay, so fast forward through all the stalling that they do. And in terms of if you only watch one show a week, SmackDown is a very, very easy watch, especially on a Saturday morning on Hulu. It's all the best parts of WWE without all, like I can't watch Raw ever anymore.
No. Just
because it's too much commitment. But SmackDown is a very easy watch. It's 90 minutes. I fast forward through some of the matches. Like I don't need to see an Austin Theory match, but it's good angles. You know, like the Paul Heyman stuff is good.
I don't think anyone watches all 3 hours of Raw. I how could you? I just think like people are just watching highlights of Raw and saying it was a good show. There's never been a good 3-hour Raw ever. That's my theory. It's impossible.
I agree. Well, this has been very enlightening, Scott. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking about.
Thanks for having me. It was
what could be
talk about a great pay-per-view.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can catch Scotland on the Pro Wrestling Potluck every Thursday on YouTube and Twitch. And if you are in the tri-state area, you can catch him on House of Glory Wrestling.
I recently. People say I'm a bad guy now. I think I've always been this, but in House of Glory, I'm a personal ring announcer for Jay Armani, and it's been going great. The crowd doesn't like me for some reason, but that's okay. And I'm also doing regular ring announcing without being mean. I do regular ring announcing upstate in Haverstraw for American Coliseum Wrestling, and on March 23rd, we have a show at the American Dream Mall in New Jersey. It's going to be our biggest show, and I'm excited about that as well.
Awesome, and I'll have your socials in the descriptions. People can follow you. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Yeah, thank you.